my lovelies. It's me, author Alexandrian Fonte, coming to you with a new review. So, just a little bit of info before we get started. Basically, I had some questions again about what we actually do here and who we represent. So I just want to clarify that before I get into tonight's review. We review indie authors only. So basically, if a mainstream author, which is what I like to call people who are like traditionally published, um, if they get thrown into the bunch, then it's usually an accident. Jen thought she was downloading a indie author, but it wound up that she wasn't. Like author Kenya Wright, who's actually a published author. So, well, like everybody's published, but I mean like traditionally published. Like I used to be a traditionally published author, but what we're focusing on here is indie authors because indie authors don't get the spotlight as much as they should. So you can you can subscribe to us, which is kind of what we ask that you do. If you are an indie author and you would like for us to review your work, it is sort of like a quid pro quo. You guys subscribe, we review. That's just how it is. You and to be honest, you're more likely to get your book reviewed quickly or quicker if you have subscribed. Not my doing. It's more Jen's. So I guess she asks like the authors when they submit to us, have they subscribed, and then she goes through that, I guess, to do whatever, and then she sends me the books and then I review them. So I'm not the one who's doing that. So just want to make that clear. Also, when we give a review, we are giving an honest review. This is what we have told you that we will be doing. We will be giving honest reviews. Oh, it looked like I had a hole in my shirt for a second. um, and we will be giving honest reviews regardless of whether we really loved your book or not. We still have to give an honest review, which is what, authors should be asking for. I know they hurt because believe me, I'm an author too, and I've got some visceral, reviews as well that I really was just like screaming, obscenities or saying things that I wish I could say to whoever left me that review. So, I mean, it's just the way things work. And so, it is our job to give you a an honest review. And so, we review everything except for Christian street lit, which is like hustle and flow type, and then non-fiction. So if it's a self-help book, if it's something along religion, that kind of stuff, we're not reviewing those. We don't. I am a spiritual person, but Jen isn't, and well, Jen is, but it's more shamanistic. Like some of my, like I have native blood, so there's shamanistic rituals in our family as well. My grandmother, on my dad's side is Catholic, and then my mom's mom is Baptist. But I don't I subscribe to God. I don't actually attend church anymore. I used to because I was forced to. When I was a kid, I didn't get a choice till I was like a senior in high school. And so I just decided, it's my thing. So I will have whatever relationship that I have with God on my own. So we don't review Christian lit. Sorry, we just don't. Now it can be sweet, like Sweet Valley High type. It can be closed bedroom. The couples can wait till they're married, as long as there aren't like Christian overtones to the book, or you're trying to like send subliminal messages with your manuscript. Then you could totally come on in and, you know, petition us or send in your submission. And pretty much that's all we ask. There is no fee. You don't have to pay for this. That's not what we're here for. We're paying it forward because we feel that indie authors need to get the spotlight just like regular authors do. So there's no fee. All you have to do is send in your submission. We prefer that you send in a Mobi or a EPUB. And if you don't have either one of those, and you don't, when you upload your book to Kindle, I'm not sure if Barnes and Noble does it, but I don't think you can even upload to Barnes and Noble unless you have your book in a EPUB form. So basically, when you go to upload your book to Kindle, you upload the book and then you have to click that little bar that says to preview your book, and then the Kindle shows up, and then the phone, and then the tablet, and all that stuff. So when you go back, when you click back to the book, once you get out of the preview, there's a little icon down there that's blue that says preview on computer. And if you click that, it will ask you how you want it. And so you click on the little icon that says Mobi, Mobi. Click that and it will compile your book in an EPUB for you, or a Mobi, and then you will download it to your computer, and that's what we ask you to send us. If you don't, I had a person say that they didn't know how to do that. So that's kind of the only way that we're going to accept your work. Now, we can accept your manuscript, but the author in me screams at that. Like, we would never do anything to your manuscript. We would never copy it, do any of that kind of stuff. Jin has actually accepted a few, and she made them into Mobis and EPUBs for the author and sent it back to them, and then threw away or deleted, off of her files, deleted the actual manuscript. But Jin's not an author. Me as an author, I just scream at that because there's too much plagiarism and pirating going out there. And no, we are not going to do that because I respect that as an author. But you sending out your manuscript to other people like that, unless it's an agent, a literary agent, or an actual publishing company, you should not be sending your manuscript out to anyone. Literally no one. So you need to find out how you make that into a Mobi. Also, you can download for free Calibri. Calibri will make your manuscript into a Mobi or a EPUB, and that's our submission requirements. Nothing else. Just that you fit in one of those genres, that you send us an EPUB or a Mobi, and then if it's our cuppa, we'll pick it and we'll air it on the channel. But the thing is that you as the author have to remember that everyone's not going to like your book. And now I'm not saying that I'm automatically not going to like it, but I need for you authors to understand that everyone is not going to find your book their cuppa. Just like I've written 87 books and everybody don't find mine is their cuppa. And I have to accept that and move on. The simple fact that I am a minority author writing in a predominantly white field, paranormal romance or paranormal period, I get a lot of people who will turn their nose up once they find out that the character is brown. So, everyone's not going to like my stuff. It's kind of sad that, the vast majority of Caucasian readers won't step outside their comfort zone and read something else that has not to do with a white character, or they come up with the lines, well, I can't identify with the character. Well, for centuries, people of color have not been identifying with you, but we read it anyway. So, because we have the capacity to step outside of our comfort zones. So, anyway, as far as what our submissions are, those are them. And that's pretty much it. Now, tonight's author is a fantasy author because remember, tonight is Friday, and on Fridays we read everything. So if you're a horror, if you write mystery, suspense, fantasy, all of that, it will be on a Friday. Um, and so tonight's author, just a second. Let's take off my glasses because I cannot see up close. Okay. So tonight's author is author Joel Harris. And tonight's book, the book that we are going to review tonight, is called The Crucifix Dagger. In a world that hates his kind, only a necromancer can save all creation from damnation. The Crucifix, Dagger, Shadow, and Ash, Book 1, and it's by author Joel Harris. Here is this is what the cover looks like. So now, here are my notes. Just 1 second. Okay, so I had to tear them out of my book because I need my book for the stuff that I'm doing. Okay, so the story opens with the slasher. He is basically referred to as just 1 sec. His character is referred to as, darn it, where did I write it? Oh, here it is. Okay. Okay, so so it opens up with so first off, he's part elven and he's part human. But few know it because of the fact that he tries to hide it due to the fact that his kind is hated. Like people in this world, in this universe, they hate anyone. They hate people who are or characters or people like him who are half elf, half human. And so basically, he swore allegiance to the blade, so he's also referred to as Son of the Blade, I believe it is. And then, so basically, he's hired as a swordsman, and basically what he does is, like the beginning of the book opens, he has been paid to kill someone. And so it doesn't matter who it is, he will kill them as long as you give him money. And so basically he's a sword for hire, or at least that's the way I saw it. Okay, so now, so like this couple's doing their due in the alley, like she's a prostitute. I forget what the name is that he calls them. And so this kid comes up to him, and this kid gives him like this intricate like scroll box, and so he's like, what's this? And then he opens it up, and then it gives him directions, and so he goes to so it basically leads him to the Duchess, and this Duchess wants her husband to be killed, and so she basically pays him. He does the deed, and then he decides to go and like go down to like the fisherman's wharf, and like he's gonna have himself actually it's called the fisherman's quarters. And he's gonna have himself a drink, and then he starts chatting. He doesn't really chat with the bartender because the minute he walks in, the bartender recognizes him and sees what he is, and so he automatically has hostility toward him. And so he orders a drink, and he orders like the most expensive drink in there, and then he puts like these six I think they're called spielings, which was kind of weird to me, but they're called spielings or some spielings, I believe that's what it is. And he puts them on the or species, I think they are, instead of pieces, species. Yeah, I think they're called species. And so he puts six of them on the bar. And so where the barkeep was annoyed and pissed off at him like 2 seconds ago, now he's pretty much indifferent because he gives him, he paid all this money for this drink. And so So then he tells him, oh, he's at the back of the bar. And so then he turns around, he looks, and he goes towards the back of the bar, and it's some old funky looking old man. He's got like rotten teeth, all this kind of stuff. And so he gives him like this little prophecy or whatever. And so he's like, you need to go to Crescent Hill. And then when he reaches Crescent Hill, he'll know what he's supposed to do or see, if it's a job, whatever. And so he goes to, so basically he finishes his drink and then he leaves, and then he finds like this lantern, and then he goes to Crescent Hill, and then he meets this guy McGraw. I think I'm not exactly sure how it's pronounced. And then he tells him to follow him because his master has a job for him. And so basically this pretty much begins his journey. And so he is an actual necromancer. Okay, so, and then that's where I'm going to stop. Okay, so now this book is considered dark fantasy. It is not for the faint of heart. It's not for kids. Like, even though it's a fantasy, it's a dark one. So basically, this is 18 plus. Like, little kids or teens should not be reading this book because there's just a little bit too much grit and adult themes in it for like teenagers to be reading. And then, okay, so some of the things I felt were like kind of wonky was the fact that he kept saying, the author kept saying the character's name. Like, I believe his actual name was like Tillin or something like that, but he kept calling him Sword of the Blade or Son of the Blade, I believe it was. And he said this like over and over, like a lot. And so it kind of like throws you out of the book because you want to almost scream, okay, I know his name, not to be mean, but you kind of want to scream that because he said, it's like, I literally every other paragraph has the character's name in it. And so it's like, I know he's Son of the Blade, or he said so many times I kind of forgot what it was, because I started to like tune it out. And then let's see. Also, okay, where was that? Okay, and then okay, and so basically that was pretty much the repetition through the first three chapters of the book. And then it's like it was okay. So basically, it was a bit repetitive, right? And I just feel like the first three chapters, because they were also a little bit confusing, like I would lose my spot and then I would have to go back and reread what it was that I just finished reading. And so I kind of feel like the first three chapters of the book, the author needs to go back and polish them up. One, take out, Son of the Blade. That's like way too many times. Way too many times. And even with it being said so many times, I still forgot the name. If it's Son of the Blade or Sacred to the Book. I can't remember what it was. But it was just, and I think that's because I started tuning it out. Because of the fact that it was said so many times. And then I just feel like if he could go back and, fine tune the first three chapters, because like I said, they were confusing. There were some typos in there too. And so I feel like the first three chapters need to be fine tuned. There are some scenes that could be actually revamped and maybe taken out. Like the really gritty ones where also I had an issue with the fact that the one woman that he actually had some feelings for, because the character hates magic and he feels like magic is the bane of existence. And I had an issue with the fact like that the one character that he did have some sort of feeling for, what he described her as chocolate, and then he basically went on to say that she was pretty much the spawn of the earth. She was this, she was that. He was able to see inside of her, and she was hollow and filthy, and she had gook in her. I had an issue with that because It's sort I was sort of seeing that as like some freaking um some Conrad, because Conrad does the same similarities. Dark is when he contrasts the Congo with England and the characters of light and dark. The his wife is pristine. She's in white. She's beautiful. She's what basically society should be. And then when he looks at the Africans, the Congo, it's dark and it's malevolent, and that pissed me off because one, I am a literature teacher. I'm a literature professor. I teach this stuff every day. And the simple fact that he contrasted her with dark and basically all of this other stuff that was spewed after he killed her, I had an issue with that. I really did not care for that. And so basically, after I would suggest, if you want readers of color, that you take that out, because that was, I mean, there are so many other ways you could have described her. One, you didn't have to put her race in there because it's nowhere else in your book. Two, you could, I just kind of feel like you could have described her completely different from that. And maybe I'm having an issue with it because I am a minority. I am a woman of color, and you basically just killed off a woman of color with like this really like just grotesque description of her. So I had an issue with that. And then but the point of it is, like, this is a review of the book, of the work. And so regardless of the fact that that pissed me off, the book is still a good book. And so basically the second half, I mean, like, once you pass chapter 3, then you're getting into the good stuff. You're getting into the characters. You're getting to see who the sword of the blade is, or the son of the blade, Talon, I'm just going to say his name, who he is after all of that stuff in the beginning of the book, his journey and what he actually goes to. And so it's like, as far as like fantasy is concerned, it's a really good fantasy, and it reminded me of the one episode, well, like the whole arc of Arya, when she went with the man with no name and she learned to wield the sword. And so she was basically going to all of these places, killing these people, or the dog who was with her. That was pretty much what his job was. He would kill people for money, and he did not care anything about them. And so the second arc of the book reminds me of that. And this character, he reminds me of that as well. And so it is a good fantasy. Like I said, it's for 18, I believe it's 18 and over. And if I had to star this book, I would star this book at least a 3.75, because it is a good fantasy. Even though I have my issues with it, like killing off that character and doing that and just writing all that nonsense about her. I had an issue with that. His book, to me, probably would have gotten a 4 stars or 4.5 had that scene not been in there, because that really turned me off. And so after that scene, I pretty much had to force myself to read the rest of the book. And I'm glad that I did, because it is a good book. The rest of the book is a very good fantasy. And so I feel like if he hadn't have had that spot in there for me, I would have given him a 4.5 stars. But since that's in the book, I didn't like that. And it was, I've learned as a professor to disassociate myself with things in, literature, especially white literature, that I don't like, and concentrate on the story. And so basically, this book gets a 3.75 because it was a good story after I got over the initial BS of the beginning. So, that's pretty much my review for tonight. I would kind of say, revamp the first 3 chapters, because they are very confusing, and take out the fact that you repeat his name like so many times. So many times. You can substitute a pronoun for when you feel like saying his name again. And so basically, these reviews are my opinions, and remember, that's exactly what they are, opinions. You don't have to accept them or use them. We do them more or less so you can you know use them as part of your marketing platform. But if it's not to your, if we've done a review that's not to your cuppa, you totally don't have to use it. But I would say that the author revamped the first three chapters. Take out that scene because you're gonna throw off a lot of people of color, and then just substitute his name because the rest of the book was very good. After he meets McGrail, everything in it is a normal dark fantasy to me, and so I like the rest, and it was very comparable to like Game of Thrones, and so that's pretty much it. That's it to this review. The author gets a solid 3.75 for this, and hopefully he will hear me with the rest of the stuff that wasn't too kosher. Now tomorrow we are going to be reading. This person is not part of our roster. I'm hoping at some point we start getting some more submissions. We got some, but Jen has been, this was her last week of work. I've also been furloughed, so I won't be going to work anymore either. But she hasn't been able to actually go through them. So she's promised to go through them this weekend. And then with me working on my own stuff this weekend, basically, I'm going to do a review tomorrow anyway because of the fact that, we've got this crisis going on and people are at home looking for things to do and see, and we've got the book FOMOs going for ourselves right now. And then giving out the free books, and so people are also looking for free books and looking for books to read. So I think these reviews will come in handy a lot because basically it gives readers a chance to hear about a certain book that they might be interested in. And so tomorrow we are going to be reviewing author Teresa Hodge and Shani Green Dowell's To the Woman He Loves. And this is the cover. Neither is on our roster, but Jen downloaded this book and she really loved it, so she sent it to me. And so this is who we are going to be reviewing tomorrow. So now, that is pretty much it to this review. Please remember to subscribe. Click that little button down there and then click the bell so every time we do upload a video, you will get an alert. And that's pretty much it to this review. Love you guys. Peace, love, happiness. And don't forget, give me a shout out down there. Remember, we have that $50 gift card up for grabs if you are a reader. And so just give me a shout out. Tell me what you're doing during this quarantine time, where you're from, where you live, and then you will automatically be entered to win the gift card. Peace and love. I'll see you guys tomorrow.